So these are the components of the RW LED lamp, and some of these processes I have already completed, like the insert nuts are already inserted into the lampshade stand. On the wood, we have inserted the wood insert nuts into there already. And on the electronic components, we've already wired everything up, and we've also installed plugs for them already. On the LED, we have heat compounded it to the heatsink, and then we've siliconed it in, including the lens cover for the LED, and then we've siliconed it in to the actual LED housing that is an ABS print. And of course, we've wired it up and have a plug coming out of that. So the idea is that all these components just plug in so they can be taken apart, put back together, replaced, whatever. I can also do a demo at our workshop at the Makerspace and show you how to put the entire lamp together and then take it apart again. So this is our electronic cover, and on this version we did decide to put in a dimmer. So that actually goes into the cover. This is the push button on off switch. This is the power jack for the power supply. And of course this is the completed LED housing. This is the 1/4-inch plexiglass piece that I laser cut and engraved in our laser. And then it was formed in the oven. And we can give you directions on how to do that yourself. It's pretty cool how you can mold the plexiglass around. So again, our electronic cover, it covers up all the components at the bottom of the wood and also allows us to install the jacks and plugs that we need. Here we have our little rubber donuts. They're for the top of the plexiglass where the bolt meets the plexiglass so we don't crack the plexiglass. And we also have this bit of neoprene that goes in between the plexiglass and the vertical stand, and that will help avoid cracking the plexiglass also. These are feet extensions. Basically, we had to raise it up a little bit to clear all the components. So we've just ABS printed these on our Ultimaker 3D printer, as well as the electronic case. This is ABS cut from a sheet of 1/4-inch ABS, and that's kind of our spacers. And then we have the various bolts. These are stainless bolts that hold the wood and the ABS all together. We have some wood screws that fastens our feet down to the bottom. And then we have some nice little Allen metric bolts here that will fasten the LED housing to the bottom and will fasten the actual vertical support to the bottom base. And then we've got 3 smaller ones that's going to fasten the plexiglass to the top of the tower. Now keep in mind also for the wood, this can be a hardwood. This is a plywood. A hardwood would look a lot nicer than the plywood, especially on the edges and that. So keep that in mind. Let's put this together. Start with the base piece. And the first things we want to do is just get the LED in the right orientation. This is glossy side up, not the texture side up. So we just want to make sure we're the right way, and that looks good. I'll take that off for now. So we've got a few insert nuts in here. We're just going to drop these down and glue this up. One thing you have to remember, when you insert these plastic insert nuts, when they get melted in, you got to be very careful that you don't get plastic inside of them. And if you do, you got to make sure you clean them out, which can be hard. You might need to apply a little bit of heat. So we've made contact. Looking good. So all secure. Just going to push this down and through. One thing I think I'm going to do right away is put on the feet, because then if I flip it up and down, it's not going to crush any wires, to give it a little bit of spacing. So the feet, two parts go together. We use this brass wood screw. You can kind of push it through to start it. And we're just going to do them up with a standard screwdriver. So you want to make sure that screw is lined up to the hole, and it should do it pretty easy. The holes are just the right size. You just want to snug that up. Do not over tighten that, because it will strip the wood. We want to be able to take these off again if we need to. Okay, so now we've got the feet on, so you can see it stays above the ground. At this point, I'm going to flip it upside down. I want to use a soft cloth because we've got the LED and the plastic here. We don't want to wreck this. So let's see what we can do next. Let's put these components in here. So this is the AC, and you can see this is offset, this circle. That's the input for the power plug. We want that to be at its lowest point at the top of this, or the bottom really, because it's upside down. So I'm going to put that through a little plug. By the way, these leads are all, they're soldered, and then they have a heat sink shrink wrap on them. So again, I'm going to put that at the top, make sure it's even. I'm just going to push it in, and it actually just snaps in really nice. This kind of thing, sometimes you have to test, sometimes you get lucky as far as the tolerance goes, because we found we have quite a bit of shrinkage with the ABS, so you got to watch your holes in that with the ABS. So that's all in there. It's actually better to put this in right away. So we've got the 3 and 4 plugs on here. We're going to just feed them through here. And let's just see where we want this to go here. Because there's an on and off light here. I think I'm going to line it up so it's facing, now we could face it to the back. I think I'm going to kind of line it up this way so it faces to that direction. Okay, so I'm just going to hold that there. Then I'm going to feed the large push button bolt, or sorry, nut, onto here. And this clears the ABS in that, except the ABS is that kind of shape. It's a little larger, but we got to make sure that this is in line with the ABS. So yeah, just twisted it here. And I'm just going to use a adjustable crescent wrench to tighten this up. And again, we just want it kind of snug. Now, it's not where I want it, so I'm going to loosen it up just a bit. Okay, so I can still turn this. Then I'm going to put this on. And you're going to see that I can actually turn this with this ABS, okay? So I'm going to see if I can turn it to where I actually want it here without making it too tight. So that's basically where I want it. It's pretty good. Looks good. And you can see that, so you can actually use this as a wrench, this piece of ABS. So now we've got this. And now we want to just feed this through this hole. Be very careful with the wiring. These are fairly fragile. It's very thin wires in that. You want to crimp these or bend them over because you're going to lose, it's going to break the circuit. So now we're going to fasten this part to the top. I found these bolts are a little hard to line up, so we're just going to feed these wires through carefully. And I'm just going to try to get them lined up to the actual insert nuts. So I've managed to start one, and then I've started the other one. So again, be very careful with these wires. I'll get into that in the PDF, but you do have to extensively test all these wires before you do this final assembly process. So it looks like we're getting this all nice and flat here. Everything's nice and flush. And I'm just going to push this so it's just countersunk in there. So this is actually right flush. I can't feel it. It's just gone down into the wood a bit. Now this one's a bit up still. So we're going to turn that until, again, it just sinks in. It gives a really nice look. And it's where we want it. We want it nice and flush. Just about there. One more turn. And there we go. So that looks really nice. So at this point, I think we'll put the other side on. So we've got our ABS, we've got our two main screws here. For some reason this one doesn't want to go. So I'm just going to try to line these up visually. And of course, this is crooked right now. That's absolutely what you don't want to do. If I started this crooked, it's going to strip the, it's definitely going to strip the nut. So, looks like we're about 90 now. I'm just going to start that. And let's see if I can get this one lined up. And while you're screwing it in, sometimes it may look like it's going in, but just double check that it's not pushing this top layer out. That means it's not catching the bolt or the nut. So it looks like I've got it. Before I tighten these up, I want to push the whole thing down a bit. So I'm just going to push it down while I'm tightening it up. Just so if there's any slack in there and if I can push it a bit forward, it will go. Nice thing about these extended rubber feet, these bolts do just clear. So again, like the other ones, I want to tighten these up just so they sink into the wood a little bit. Just so they're nice and flush. This one's almost there. Let's give it a bit of a turn. This one's just go a little more. Okay. So at this point, I think we're going to finish wiring everything up. So this case is going to go, it has to go here. So all this stuff has to go in underneath here and into this hole. But the driver or puck also has to go in there. And I envision the puck going in like this. Okay, so I think we'll just do that. This has got double tape on it. And just take that off. I'm going to pull this wire back a bit. I'm just going to use a screwdriver to leverage that in. So that's good. It should be nice and stuck. Now we got all the wire in here. Now, because of these plugs, it's going to be very cumbersome trying to get everything in under here, and we could even damage stuff. So I've actually done plugs more for demonstration, so I can take this apart again if I want. You can just hardwire this and make the wires a lot shorter to each area. You just have to be aware of where everything is when we're doing it. So let's just start plugging these in and see where we end up. So of course one goes to one. Only trick you got to do is make sure they're in the right orientation. I wanted to kind of put that down, but I don't think I can. 2. And as far as this goes, the plugs, whatever the number is right up is how these go in, because you can't put these in the wrong way. Another way to check is red wire to red wire, brown wire to brown wire. So we're just going to push that in, just slides in easily. 3 is actually got to go in here. So let's plug the 3 in. And this little guy has got to go in here. And we've just got this little nut here. And we're just going to do it up. Now you don't have to actually put this in. This is a dimmer for the LED. You won't see it really, but you can get in underneath the screwdriver. You can lift it up and just turn it manually. But you can dim the LED if you want. So it's not supposed to be sort of every day you can dim it with this. It's supposed to be set the light to where you want it and just leave it. You can just put these wires together and avoid the dimmer altogether. So I'm just going to use a pair of small pliers to do this up nice and tight. It's plastic, so you really need Loctite. It should be nice and secure there. Okay, so these have to be pushed down slightly also, which is not a good thing because they don't want to break anything. So my goal here is to get all these parts underneath here, which is definitely looks like it's going to be a bit of a challenge. And try not to break any of the circuits or wiring while I'm doing it. And we're almost there. So now we've got these tiny little wood screws. So the problem with the wood screws is you don't want to be going and doing these up and undoing them too many times because they're pretty easy to strip the wood. They don't actually go in very far. Ideally, this would be a one-shot deal. Probably better to put insert nuts in, but it's such a tiny area. So there we go. It looks like we've got all the electronics hooked up. Now, before we put the rest together, what we want to do is check the electronics, absolutely. If electronics aren't working now, they never will. So before we put the rest together, let's just check the electronics. So, it comes in underneath the lamp, and pushes into there, so it comes out the back like that. So here we go, the big test. Woohoo! Okay, now we're going to just adjust the brightness of this. So you can see, just kind of get it on and then super bright. So that's maximum brightness. I think we're going to leave it there. Off on. And we're good to go. So let's just unplug that. And continue with the rest of the assembly. So a good thing to do is actually just check these insert nuts to see if we can thread them in. Okay, so that piece fits right in there. Okay, so let's just take this foot off so we can get a little bit better access to the 3 holes to put the tower on. So I'm just going to use an awl to line up each of the insert nuts. Now this part is a little bit finicky because they are quite tiny bolts and insert nuts. Just take your time making sure that you're at a right angle to the insert nut and make sure you're not cross-threading it because that would not be good. So, and the other thing is, don't do the first one up all the way when you get it started. Leave it fairly loose because you want to get the other one started first, so you got a little bit of give and leeway there. The other thing is you don't want to tighten these up too much. You want to go just past snug because they are just insert nuts pushed into plastic. They can rip out if you put them under too much force. So there is a bit of a countersunk here, so we want the bolt head to just go just past flush, so it's nice sunken down into there. So let's put that foot back on. Again, just till it's snug. There's no reason to tighten those up. So there we have the bottom all done. Electronics, feet on. Let's do the final thing, which is going to be the lampshade. So the lampshade again has 3 insert nuts. However, I don't want the plexi. The plexi can crack if you put it under unnecessary stress. So number 1, we've got these tiny bolts. We're going to put little rubber, they're kind of little donut washers. Actually look like a donut on each bolt. So that'll be on the top of the plexi. And then it won't be hard metal to the plexi when we're cinching it down. As well, I'm going to put this little neoprene gasket I made on the top. So we've got something for this to sink down into. So, by the way, we can do this a number of ways. We could do it like this. We could do it like this. I think I'm going to do it this way. So let's just start with one bolt. Just want to line the holes up, pushing it down. So I'm pressing the plexiglass down. Be sure I'm aligned. See if I can get a grip here. And it's caught it. Perfect. So I'll just take this other long bolt out. And replace it with a shorter bolt and the donuts. And there we go. Again, snug. Donut should expand a little bit. Not too far. We definitely don't want to make the nut go through the little gasket donut there. You can't really see the neoprene gasket underneath, which is exactly what I wanted. And so when you're doing your lamp, you could engrave this anything you want. It could be sandblasted. I usually tape the edges if I'm sandblasting. I've done an alligator pattern. You can do like a radiant sunburst pattern, anything you want really, which is kind of cool. So there it is. There's the lamp.